Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. PSG, the Professional Service Group of Mercer County, is a group that is here for you, anybody that is in any kind of career transition. In addition to wishing you good morning, happy Aloha Friday. Today is Friday, and I am wearing my green Hawaiian shirt because tomorrow morning it will be the first day of spring, so I thought that would be nice to do. At 5:37 a.m. in the morning, it will be springtime. So something to look forward to after the snowy winter that we had. Here at PSG of Mercer County, we also like to have a little bit of fun. Of course, we have a little bit of time before the meeting officially starts and at the end as well. So because we do like to have a little bit of fun here, we will also celebrate National Let's Laugh Day. So today is National Let's Laugh Day. And it is to remind us to have a little bit of humor in our day. And certainly with being in a little bit of a career transition, being in the pandemic, all the little bit of challenges that we're having right now, it's always good to have a little bit of humor, have fun with people, tell a joke, do something that you really enjoy, and at very least celebrate that today. So at PSG of Mercer County, we do have programs, resources to help make your job search a little bit more efficient and effective. And so we're here to try and give you the tools and make you more effective in your own job search. And as I always like to let people know, we do have a LinkedIn group. Our LinkedIn group is a public group. It is called PSG of Mercer County. So go into the LinkedIn group section and search for it if you are not yet a member of our group, and click the join group button, and you will be put in pending status. And usually once or twice a week, I go through the requests and allow people into the group as long as you've been to at least one of our meetings, either previously when we were in person or when now we are virtual. So I will look, if for some reason I don't recognize your name or don't see you in our attendance, I may send you a note just reminding you or asking you to let me know how it is you've learned about the group, because I do try and keep out as best as possible the list collectors, the salespeople, not people who are in a sales career, but people who are looking just to sell to us as members. We have over 1,650 members. These are people that have been through a job search at least once or at least attended our meetings. And so that means that they tend to be people that understand the process of job search. So if you do reach out to any of them, and regardless of the size of your personal first degree connections, you can connect to people in groups and reach out to them. But if you reach out to them, there's a good chance that they will contact you back. So that's kind of good. Rather than, so there are some people that we reach out to, unfortunately, we don't hear back from them. So look for our LinkedIn group and contribute. Like an article or contribute a post or comment on an article. Maybe you've got an email for a terrific job that just doesn't apply to you. Copy and paste that and share it with other people. Your activity in LinkedIn will improve your visibility in LinkedIn, so it's only going to be good for you. In addition to our LinkedIn group, we do have our website, psgofmercercounty.org, psgofmercercounty.org. Go check it out. It's more than just a landing page and a calendar of our events. It is over 120 pages of content. So there's a lot of information that is in our website for job seekers. It's really to get you started or reinvigorated in your job search for different ideas. If you're looking for full-time employment, we talk about that. If maybe you're considering a path to consulting, we talk about some tips for that. So there's a lot of information that's there. In addition, we do have our open jobs page and our jobs posting. The open jobs page does have links to 2,600 area company career pages. So there are links to 2,600 company career pages, and those are all companies both in Mercer County and the 6 border counties around Mercer counties. It's kind of our geographic area. And also we have our job postings page accessible there as well. There are 7 new job postings this week, so you may want to take a look at that for a few minutes later to see if any of those apply to you. In just a moment, I will turn the screen over to Doug, and Doug Berger is our presenter. Just want to go over some of the ground rules. So as a reminder, I ask you, please mute your microphone just to make sure there is no accidental background noise. You never know if someone in the house is going to vacuum, or if a neighbor is going to blow some leaves, or the garbage truck is going by. I just want to try and minimize that kind of interruption. For questions and answers, we are going to use chat, and chat is in the upper right corner. It's a little circular icon, looks like a cartoon call out. And so you just click there and you can type a message in chat, and type the message. Don't just send it to me or organizer or Doug. Send it to everybody, so at the very least Doug and I both have the opportunity to see it. So you'll do it one of two ways. In chat, just type the word question. That's all you have to do anytime during the program. And that's kind of the digital equivalent of raising your hand. With so many little pictures, it'll be hard for me to see that you're raising your hand. So type the word question, and I will look for those, and among all the other comments that are there, because there are certainly going to be other comments and introductions. So I will be looking for the word question, and then I will just ask Doug, excuse me, Doug, there's a question, and he will happily take the question right then. If you don't want to be on the microphone, you can actually type the word question and then type in your question. And so that way I will just read it out loud. And I will ask you, please type the question as close to grammatically correct as possible. A few people recently have used some abbreviations, and it's a little hard for me to make sure I understand the meaning. So if it takes you an extra couple of seconds to type entire words, or to put the little thes and ands and us, and please do that. It'll just help the process a bit. So if you're typing your whole question in, just make it as readable and easy for me as possible so we can get that question to Doug. Okay, so Doug, I did make you presenter, so you can share your screen at any time. But in the meantime, PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome back Doug Berger. Doug has been a lifelong student of personal transformation and peak performance. He has trained thousands in breakthrough thinking, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Doug is a frequent speaker in job seeker groups in New Jersey. He is also a Vistage speaker on the topic of becoming a disruptive competitor. Doug's ebook, The Breakthrough Mind, is available on Amazon. Most recently, Doug has found a national initiative, Industry Reimagined 2030, which is bringing about a sea change in U.S. industry from worldview of irreversible decline to one of vibrant opportunity. He is causing a new level of collaboration among leading national associations and organizations. So PSG of Mercer County is pleased to welcome someone who makes me feel very empowered, Doug Berger.
Thanks, David. It's good to see some of the people that I've seen in the past, who are professionals in the space. Alex, good to see you, my friend. So today, so here's my disclaimer. I am not an expert on job seeking. I'm really an expert on how to think about accomplishing things in a breakthrough type of way. So I'm going to ask your permission to really be very provocative and for you to kind of follow along with the bouncing ball. So I'm going to suggest you think about certain questions in a provocative way, that you explore some things in a provocative way. And then at the end, just do what now makes sense. But first, you have to explore things that are kind of outside of your normal way of thinking in order to actually see what might be fruitful to actually take action on. So I like the iceberg metaphor. If we think of what's visible in the iceberg are all the things that you have to do to find a new job. You need a resume. You need an updated LinkedIn profile. That you need to network. These are all the things that you need to do in order to find a job. Just like in any area of breakthrough, there are things that you just you need to do, and though they don't go away, there's no magic wand to wave when you're trying to think about things in a breakthrough way. There's still the blocking and tackling of everyday life that you have to do. What breakthrough thinking does is it introduces some new dimensionality, if you will, so that some of the things that you have to do, you actually approach in a very, very different way. So that's what we're going to be focused on today, is we're going to focus on the part of the iceberg, the 9/10 of the iceberg that's actually not visible, but has an enormous impact on your ability to secure the kind of job that you're really looking for. So I'm going to walk you through something that I call the breakthrough roadmap. So people like when there's a structure, you know, when it's not just a collection of ideas or a collection of principles. So we're going to walk you through this structure called the breakthrough roadmap. And this is a structure that I developed consulting to companies over the last 30 years about how to go after accomplishing a very bold initiative that at the outset is not fully practical. So it's bold. There's some things you can do to get started, but it's not fully practical. So I'm going to start with the first notion about breakthrough is that it's bold, it's aspirational, it's a possibility that lights you up and turns you on. If it didn't light you up and turn you on, it's not a breakthrough. So I'd like you for a moment to consider what you're going after in your career and go, does it light you up and turn you on? And if not, what's missing? What's missing? If it were present, you'd go, I'm much more excited now about this job opportunity than I was 2 minutes ago when I think about the job opportunity having these characteristics to it. So this is the point where right away I'm going to suggest being interactive. So I'd invite a couple of people who've got some ideas. If you think about, you know, your career move in terms of a possibility, in terms of something that lights you up and turns you on, what do you see you would add to the ingredient mix of what that next job would be? So somebody just come off mute and jump in. So either I've got everyone's half asleep, or everyone is so, you know, lit up, turned on, excited about the job that they're already going after that they can't imagine that anything would be any better than what they're already going after.
Right here, Ravelli, can you hear me? I might have some background noise. I hope that's okay. It's not too disruptive. Okay. Okay, so my name is Ravelli Reddy. So in terms of my next career move, what I'm actually really looking into is engaging with a lot of people. I'm a project manager. I've been doing a lot of, web redesign projects and marketing projects for about 7 years or so. When it comes to handling projects, what really enlightens me is working with people and working in the marketing field. Just having that constant interaction. I don't necessarily like to be behind the scenes. So to me, it's important that I engage with, multiple people, either client facing or where I'm able to just interact with C-level executives. So on my next role, that's what I'm actually looking for. Like I'm aiming for that particular role.
Great, thank you. Somebody else, what when you think about your job and if it doesn't light you up and turn you on, what's the missing ingredient that would make a difference? So for some people, for example, it might be there's a certain kind of cultural environment that I'm looking for. All right. And, I haven't actually been factoring that in explicitly into my search equation. So what would be the cultural environment you would be interested in? Or what would be the technical environment if it's a technology type job? Or what would be the promotional opportunities if you haven't been thinking about that? So again, this is not rocket science. This is above the iceberg, but thinking about the characteristics of the job and the company, all right, in a kind of breakthrough possibility mode. Somebody else.
Hey, Doug, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Amit Ray, and David, you probably heard me in other meeting sessions also. So I am in project management myself. I've been there for a number of years and transitioning now. But one of the things I'm thinking of is if I do transition to a teaching career, okay? Earlier in my years, I didn't want to do teaching, but over the years, as I learned technology and did some coaching of folks, I find that quite satisfying. So I'm trying to figure out ways to, break into that area. So that's kind of an aspirational, because it's, after 20, 30 years in one career, trying to do something more satisfying in some ways. So that's what I'm thinking of. I have done some teaching in Writing Valley, done some coaching. I'm looking for other opportunities. I'm actually volunteering right now through our PMI chapter for some coaching. So that's where I am.
Great, thank you. Thanks. So the third characteristic about a bold aspiration is who you are in the matter of your aspiration. So now we're going below the surface of the iceberg, all right? So below the surface of the iceberg is, for some people, even one might say for most people, what's authoring their future is circumstances. And then in a breakthrough world, what's authoring the future is you. You are the author of your life. So I want to talk to you today that you author your life, and there are circumstances that are happening, but the circumstances are not the author of your life. You are the author of your life. And so when you think about being the author of your life, then you're going to write the next chapter. You're going to say how that chapter is going to go. So think about what we're going to do today in the spirit of who's the author of my life. It might have been I was thinking about it as circumstances, but for purposes of today, I'm going to think about it like it's I'm the author. I'm the author of my life. So and that's the beginning of what I call the breakthrough mindset, is approaching it that the outcome is not a function of the circumstances. The outcome is a function of you being the author of your life. So, and then within our dreams, within our aspirations, this is a great quote from Sugar Ray Leonard called "Within our dreams and within our aspiration is where we find our opportunities." So when we think about, when we stand in a future that we're authoring, we start to see opportunities that we didn't see before. When we stand in a future that we're authoring, when we're talking to other people, we hear opportunities that we would not have heard before, because our mind is tuned now to a different dial on the radio station. It's not tuned to the dial called circumstances. It's tuned to the dial called, gee, I don't know what's about to happen, but I know what I'm out to create. So within our dreams and aspirations is where we find opportunities. And so when we look at the breakthrough mindset, there, when we think about things as left brain, right brain, okay, from a left brain, right-handed point of view, all right, we think practical, reasonable, and conventional, and that's above the waterline of the iceberg. From a breakthrough, aspirational point of view, we're thinking bold and imaginatively. Now, if I'm out to produce a breakthrough, there are two ways to think about it. One way is the reasonable way. I start with something that's practical, and then I go after making it bold. The breakthrough mindset is I start with something that's bold, and then I look at how to make it practical. So I want to invite you, for the time that we're together, to when you find yourself drifting back into being reasonable, starting with the practical. I say something and you go, that's not practical. Yep, but it's bold, and in bold we find ways to make things practical. So that's an aspect of breakthrough thinking. And if you think about times in your life when you've accomplished something very remarkable, and almost everybody on this go-to meeting will have times in your life that you've accomplished something really remarkable. And in doing so, I suggest that you never lost sight of what the bold aim was. You kept returning yourself to the bold aim of what you were out to accomplish. And then returning yourself to the bold aim, you found something new to do that you might not have thought to do before. How many of you can see that when you reflect on an area of your life when you've accomplished something that was bold and you got stuck for a period of time, and then you returned yourself to the bold outcome that really excited you, then all of a sudden you could see something to do that wasn't obvious to do at the outset when you were feeling stuck. So I'd like to hear from a couple of people where you can see shifting from this kind of reasonable mindset to this breakthrough bold mindset actually results in you seeing opportunities that in a sense were hidden in plain sight. So think about a time that you were out to accomplish something bold and you got stopped or stuck. And then you reset yourself back to the bold and you found something new to do. Somebody just jump in here.
I'll jump in here.
Thanks, Joan.
Okay. I'll just share this. I was contacted several months ago by a franchise consultant. I had never considered franchise businesses for myself before. I don't know anything about it, so I started to find out about it, and I remained sort of open-minded to this, and I have to say I explored this quite thoroughly. The conclusion that I came to was that I am not an entrepreneur, and I had always questioned, well, maybe I'm an entrepreneur. You know, this has never occurred to me. But in this case, you know, just what you're talking about, a breakthrough, I think a breakthrough might be somebody who discovers that suddenly that they're an entrepreneur. In my case, I'm quite sure now that I'm not an entrepreneur. And I was able to then look to see what I actually am and what interests me, and then focus on that.
And so then did new opportunities come? Have you seen some new opportunities as a result of that?
Yes, because I was able to focus my effort on those things that I am instead of diluting my effort over to things that I'm not.
Terrific. Thanks, Joan, for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That's a great example, okay, of, if you will, exploring the bold fully, all right, then when Joan started to look at making the bold practical, she actually can see some real constraints in terms of how she thinks about or operates in life. But in exploring the bold, it opened up some avenues that she hadn't previously considered. Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Yeah, that's exactly the nature of this part of the conversation. So, you know, when we're taking normal actions, we're taking actions that are familiar and comfortable actions, kind of actions within the box. When we're being in a breakthrough mindset, we're being bold, we're taking practical actions, but they're practical actions outside the box, meaning they're practical, but they're not actions that I'm necessarily familiar and comfortable with, but they're actions that, you know, my coach might recommend, but my first reaction is, I'm not comfortable doing that, or I'm not familiar with how to do that. And then the minute, am I going to stay within the box, or am I going to actually then look at taking practical action that's unfamiliar and uncomfortable? And I want to suggest that for the most part, all right, that is an essential ingredient to finding a job in today's market. That if you just stay familiar and comfortable within the box, you're one of how many other people that are doing familiar, comfortable actions within the box. You're a commodity. You're not going to create an aspirational job being a commodity. Again, I said I was going to be provocative, so I don't want you to think of this as I'm insulting you. I'm insulting a point of view that says, you know, I can just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect I'm going to get a different result. Not in today's market. So I won't want bold action, but I'm stuck in being reasonable. So let's talk about how you get yourself unstuck. So one thing that sticks us are limiting conclusions. So a limiting conclusion that many people find when they're searching for a job: I don't have the experience. I'm too old. I can't compete. My resume won't get seen. Now, there is a fact in these statements. You know, you have whatever experience you have. So if it's a technical job and it calls for Python, Python may not be in your resume. You know, you're at a certain age. Too old, that's a conclusion. However, what your birth certificate says, that's a fact. I can't compete. Who says so? If you're the author of your life, who's saying you can't compete? And my resume won't get seen. Okay, you know, there's a statistic behind that. And then there is, great, can I be creative about having my resume get seen? So if I operate from a conclusion, I've just shut that down. I don't pursue it anymore. I don't look for bold opportunities. I go, that's just not going to work. So one of the things that keeps us stuck is, all right, we have a limiting conclusion. We operate like it's true, and then we stop taking action in that particular area. How many of you can see that you do that? That's just human nature. It's not right or wrong. It is human nature. So when we're being stuck, when we're stuck in achieving something, a good place to look is, where am I operating with a limiting conclusion on myself? And what that looks like, or more better sounds like, is there's a little itty bitty voice that is saying something to you. And it's a familiar voice. You know, so now Joan did some real thinking about being an entrepreneur. But lots of times we're presented with an opportunity and our first reaction is, that's not me. I can't do that. So that little voice in our head is almost never flattering to us. That little voice is almost always diminishing of who we are and what our potential in life is. But all it is just a little voice. And it's probably very familiar to you. Like, you might hear that little voice a dozen times saying the same thing throughout a given day. That's not me. I can't do that. I'm too old. And that voice, it filters how we look at life. All it is, my wife refers to this as a cloud floating by. Instead of, you know, just watch the cloud floating by, there are all these little voices that just pop up in our head, and they just kind of float on by. And if we get stuck with the voice, that little voice becomes a limiting view of life. And then we've stopped being the author of our future. So just think for a moment right now. Let me stop. And you know, on the one hand, you've got this career opportunity that lights you up, turns you on. And the minute you have something bold in front of you, there's this listen for the little itty bitty voice that comes right along with a bold aspiration. So I'm just going to be quiet for a minute and let you listen to your voice. Would a couple of people be willing to share right now? What are you hearing as your limiting voice?
Doug, one thing I hear is simply the monthly mortgage, you know, orthodontia payments, all that kind of stuff. This sort of knowing what I made, what I'm making, whatever, versus the unknown, or that I may see in something that I might love to do.
Yeah, thank you, John. And in that moment, that kind of stops you from exploring bold. Because what's the limiting conclusion in what you just said?
It would be that the thing I might love to do, the real change here, is just not going to meet the monthly nut I have around my family, my household, blah, blah, blah.
Beautiful. That exactly. That becomes then a limiting conclusion. If I go for something that's really bold and aspirational, okay, I won't be able to meet my financial commitments. Bam. I'm back in the box. Thanks, John. Somebody else.
Yeah, so Doug, this is Amit again. So my thinking little voice is saying that, well, am I too old to make a transition now? How am I gonna, you know, meet aims like John was talking about, right? Should I be able to transition now, even if I might like to do it in a career? And like I said, at this after being in this industry for 30 years, will I be able to do that with practical limitations?
Emmett, I can't hear you now.
Can you? Okay, could you hear me at all?
I heard everything. I just didn't know if you were done. So I heard the last.
Oh no, I was done. I was just telling you what the little voice is telling me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not just a question. All right, I want to suggest that the question's actually disguising a conclusion. What's the actual conclusion there?
Yeah. The conclusion is that basically I do not have, I should not do it. It's a risky adventure, and I may not be successful.
Yeah, more likely is the conclusion is I won't be successful.
Right.
Yeah, and there, bam, bold possibility out the window. As opposed to, how can I take this bold possibility? How can I take the risks and actually look at those risks head on and not blink and go, great, there are some real risks I have to deal with here. I have to deal with these risks. I have to deal with the financial risk. I have to deal with the risk I may fail. Great, how can I powerfully deal with those risks? How do I go after what I want and powerfully deal with the practical matters that I have to deal with? So those practical matters, they're above the iceberg. They're visible. What's below the iceberg, all right, is how you boldly and imaginatively go after dealing with them, or whether or not you let those considerations get in the way of something that really is fulfilling and exciting for you. So, limiting conclusions. There are three different types, really. There are limiting conclusions that define you. I'm not X. They almost always are a not kind of conclusion. See, I might have a limit. It rarely is a limiting conclusion. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. No, that's bold, that's exciting, that's got energy to it. It's a conclusion, but it's not limiting. Limiting conclusions are almost always, I'm not. Or, I'm not young enough. I'm not experienced enough. I'm not technical enough. I'm not. And it defines me, and it defines my world, because in that moment, anything I'm not is now out of consideration. So limiting conclusions define me, they define your world, and then they define your actions. I can't. And now it may be something that you haven't done, but the minute I define it as I can't, it's like that ball and chain around me. All right, I can't move forward. I'm stuck. I'm stopped. I'm going to, so there are finding opportunities hidden in plain sight. So in this scene, there is a snow leopard. I want you to see if you can find the snow leopard in this scene. Let me make it a little easier. There was actually an article in the last month about people using artificial intelligence.
Oh, I found it.
With the camera. You found it? Good for you. There were people using artificial intelligence with a camera, with video, to actually be able to look at a mountain scene and see if there was a snow leopard on the mountain using artificial intelligence to find the pattern of a snow leopard. So there's a snow leopard in there. So first it looks like this, then I'm making it closer, and then here's the snow leopard. So in life, there are opportunities, but they're hidden in plain sight. And if we don't really look for them, if we walk away from it going, oh, I started here, there's no snow leopard, game over. I keep looking and I say, oh, there's a snow leopard there, wow. And now you can't miss it. Now it's just obvious, there's the snow leopard. So shifting topics, why do people play slot machines? They pay, and I think that's Ellen DeGeneres there in that picture. Just pulled it off of Google, so, you know, it's not a copyrighted picture. Why do people play slot machines? They play slot machines because there's a payoff. There's some juice in the slot machine, you know? And so when I operate inside of a limiting conclusion, there's actually a payoff from operating inside of that limiting conclusion. And the payoff is real simple. It's familiar and it's safe. So in life, if you want something bold, you want to go after something bold, you have to stare down the risk. It's that simple. Are you bigger than the risk, or is the risk as a circumstance bigger than you? Now, I'm not saying take a risk. I'm not saying just jump off a cliff. I'm saying bold made practical. I can look at that risk and I could go, great, how can I mitigate the risk? How can I make it less risky? How can I go off the cliff in a safe way? That's staring down the risk as opposed to letting the risk overwhelm you. So take a moment and just jot down some notes from right here, right now, where you can see you're operating with some limiting conclusions that have been they've been winning the battle. You've been treating the conclusions as bigger than you. On the balance of the seesaw, the conclusions have been winning. They've been weighing you down. And just make note of them. I'm not asking you to do anything about it yet. I'm just saying make note of where you've had conclusions. You have an interview, it doesn't go well. What did you conclude? You sent resumes in, you didn't get a response. What did you conclude? And the payoff of the conclusion is familiar and safe. You don't have to confront disappointment. You don't have to confront the risk. It's familiar, it's safe. Bold and breakthrough is not familiar and safe. It's not. Who sees something for themselves right now? So I'll give you a chance few people to just comment and share something and contribute to the rest of the group. Where have you been playing familiar and safe?
Well, for some people, it could be only looking at roles that they've done before.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Yes, I would agree that that's me. I have been looking primarily at roles that I've done before, and just recently I've determined that maybe I need to broaden my thinking a little bit. As you discussed, one of my thoughts has been that some of these roles that I've seen that would be a stretch for me, I shouldn't apply to because I don't have the right experience. But I really should try to rethink that, because if I don't try, I may never make that leap.
Yeah.
I agree, and thanks for bringing that up. This kind of touched my heart a little bit, because I have done different projects, like I mentioned before, and I really like marketing projects, but it's always been a little bit daunting for me to do projects that are heavy in technology, in terms of integrating like two databases or migrations. And I always feel like, oh, I've never done that. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, right? That's like the imposter syndrome kicking in. And I think it is important not to say no to yourself, and then just take a leap and try it and do your best at it, right? And you could only learn from it.
Good for you. Is it Ravli?
Ravelli, yes.
Ravelli. Thank you for sharing, Ravelli.
No problem.
Yeah, so avoiding the risk keeps us in familiar and safe territory. So I want to give you a couple of examples, all right, of people in my life recently who stopped avoiding the risk and created some remarkable career opportunities for themselves. The first person is my wife. So the company, a year and a half ago, the company my wife was working for went out of business, closed its doors. And so she was back in the job market, all right, just around, pre-COVID, right around that time. And she started, working with a couple of agencies, placement agencies, to find a new job. And what placement agency sent her out on an interview to an early stage biotechnology company. And my wife is just, you say the word science and she backs off. She's not oriented around anything technical or scientific. And her first reaction is, I can't work in a science type company. And, she put that aside and said, what have I got to lose? The company, and she had no experience in that area. She's not a scientist. She's not familiar with that area. And she had one live interview, and then COVID happened, and she had two other interviews, all remote, and got offered the job, all right, on a 30-day kind of temp position. And if all went well, it would be a full-time offer, and it turned out to be that. And when you ask, why did they hire her? They hired her because my wife came across in the interview as enthusiastic, alive, vital, a contributor. It wasn't her skill set that got her the job. It was her way of being that got her the job. We oftentimes don't think, we think that it's our skills that are going to get us the next job. Oftentimes, our skills are like somebody else's skills. It's not the skills, unless it's a highly technical position. It's not the skills. It's our way of being. And people see in that way of being something that's appealing, attractive, something that's going to contribute to the net good of that organization. I'll give you another example. A real good friend of mine, okay? He has a union job right now, and his dream has been being a film director. And he actually wrote a script for a film. He wrote it a few years ago, and he's been kind of dabbling around it. And, you know, he's just been dabbling and dabbling and dabbling. And, you know, he would come home from work and he'd say, I know I should be doing this, but I'm too exhausted from the day of work. I'm just going to put it off. I'm not going to do it. And that's been happening for him for years. He had a real shift for himself. He shifted from somebody who wants to make a film, and he's never made a film. He's done a lot of classes in filmmaking and script writing and all of that, but he's never made a film. And he had a shift from I want to be a filmmaker to I am a film director and film producer. That's who I am. And he started talking to people not as I want to make a film. He started talking to people as I'm a film director. I'm making this film. I'm looking for a cameraman. I'm looking for this resource. I'm a film director. I'm making this film. I'm looking for this resource. He started connecting with people who turned out to be extraordinarily helpful. All right. Out of the clear blue, he had done a program a couple of years ago with a well-known former film director who now travels the world and does courses for people who want to make a film. That's his new business now. He doesn't direct film, he teaches film directing and film producing. And he reached out to this person last Sunday he got a phone call back in 15 minutes later. And the guy spent over half an hour talking him through all the steps that he needed to do from where he was right now. The I want to be a film director guy would never have sent that email. The I am a film director guy sent the email and got an immediate response. So above the iceberg, above the waterline is the film and all the things that you need to do to make a film. And below the waterline is who was he being in life? And was he being somebody who wants that job, that career? Or was he being someone who is that job, is that career? And that comes across to people fundamentally differently. So if you're sitting across from somebody, you know, whether it's virtually or in person, and there's a job you want versus there's a job that's who you are, you're going to convey a very, very different message to people. How many of you can see that you would convey a very different message to people? Who can see that they've been conveying a message called, this is what I want, versus this is who I am? Remember, I said I was going to be provocative. Who's been conveying a career they want, a job they want, rather than that's who I am? And I'm going to do a bang-up job because that's who I am.
Probably again. So with me, what I noticed is that I was doing a lot of introspection, and I came to the conclusion that, I just need to be myself. I just can't, before I used to walk into an interview and I kind of like tone myself down a little bit and not really be who I am. So once I started, just being myself, even by just making the usual comments that I make, I felt that I was being more attractive to hiring managers because I was just being myself. I was just pretending to be somebody else or trying to tone myself down. And I think that's important when you stay true to yourself and then you approach your career path with the notion that, this is who I am. And, if people are going to like me this way, great. If they know that I'm not a fit for the role. So once you kind of start understanding a little bit more about yourself, then it just everything starts falling into place. And that's just been my experience.
Thanks, Rosalie. Somebody else?
Can I jump in here again?
Sure, Joan.
Okay. This last story about the film director really struck a chord with me. I told you I found out I was not an entrepreneur. My sister is an entrepreneur. And long ago, when she was in her 20s, she decided she was going to be a builder. She dropped out of college to do this. And she was told that she was going to be a secretary. She tried this job. It was not for her. She is not a person who doesn't lead. And she gave that up and didn't even finish a college degree because she was certain that she was a builder. And people told her when she tried to get her first construction loan, they told her she was not a builder. And she said, I'm going to be. And she kept telling them that she was going to be. And finally, somebody heard that. They gave her her first construction loan. The rest is history. She went on to build about 30 homes. One of them, she built it on a cliff. She said, this property, someone's going to love the view. I need one person that's going to love the view. And it was sold at a great profit. So she has spent 40 years now in this business, all aspects of real estate, which would never have happened if she had caved in to somebody's idea of who she is.
Yeah. And so in that, she was the author of her life, Joan. Great example. She is the author. She said, this is who I am, or it hasn't happened. I want to say the way she probably thought about it is, this is who I am, and it hasn't happened yet. It's not I'm going to be a builder. It's I am a builder, and it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I am a builder. It hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I am a film director. It hasn't happened yet.
Okay, may I say something? Sorry.
Say that again?
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to share my story. I'm a doctor and from India, and I'm practicing as respiratory therapist. I have a two voice inside. I want to do something, and I'm afraid to do something. I feel like I'm I like to travel. I like to do the work as a traveling therapist. Before, I did not have a chance with the family and all these things. Now I have a time, I can do it, but now I'm afraid. Like you said, age, I feel like I'm too old. I feel like technology has changed. I know I am in this field 30 years as a respiratory therapist. And now before was a Corona was there, so I didn't want to go. Now Corona is now getting better. I got my vaccine also, but I'm still afraid if I go to different hospital, different technology there. How can I do it? Because I'm not good, not savvy for the technology. Then my other voice say, what technology? Is a ventilator, is a different style, but still it's same thing. So I'm getting confused too much. I want to do something, but something is holding me.
Yeah. Now, so now what can you see? So that's the limiting conclusion. You're present to that as a limiting conclusion right now.
Right.
Great. Okay. Now, what can you shift? How can you shift the conversation?
I should try, and I should not be afraid of not of losing job, but I'm afraid of the failure. Like, that is holding me now, that at this now I don't want to fail. This is I'm doing for fun, for my own, is nothing. So I want to travel in different places, and I want to work also. Like for 6 weeks or like that. So this way I always wanted this, but I couldn't do before. And now I feel like I don't know, because so much changes happen in the world, and I don't have that confidence, but it's not big deal also. So I have two voices inside in me.
My son's 24 years old, and he went snowboarding last week with a bunch of friends out in Colorado, and he hadn't been snowboarding for he may have gone once, maybe 3 years ago, but he hadn't been on snowboards for more than a day, in probably since he was 13 years old. And he took a morning lesson, and snowboarded for 3 or 4 days when he's out in Colorado. And he said, I snowboarded a whole lot better than I did the last time I went.
Yeah. But the fear is holding about the technology, about the age, and what if I fail? Like before in the beginning, you said that fear of failing, fear of not going good interview. But that is yes and no, both. I have confidence. I worked 30 years in this place, but it's still I feel like that.
Yeah. And one of the limiting notions that people have is like around technology is I'm on my own. I have to figure it out on my own.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Can you see that for yourself?
Yeah, that's what I feel. Yeah. And I don't know anybody. So I'm afraid to ask, and said, you have 30 years experience and you don't know this much. That is inside my feeling. Once I let go that feeling, no big deal. So I'm talking to myself a lot of time, but still I'm not coming out that strong out.
Yeah. So in some cases, I don't know the technology, and I don't need to know the technology because there's somebody else there who does. Or in other cases, I don't know the technology, but there'll be other people in the company who know the technology. So my son just got his master's degree, all right, in data science, started working for a company, and there were aspects of the company's technology he didn't know. He wasn't trained in aspects of that technology in graduate school. Great.
Right.
Guess what? There were plenty of other people in the company who knew the technology inside and out. And my son's a quick study, so he learned the technology. So instead of not knowing the technology becoming a limiting conclusion, it was, I don't know it, but I'll find out. I don't know it, but I'll figure it out.
But then comes age. Your son is younger. I feel like at this age, do you think I can learn that? I will remember that? That's how I feel. Because of age also. It's not age, but I feel because of technology is new thing, and I am too old for this, to learning something new.
Well, shame on you for that limiting notion.
Okay, so what should I do? It should not be that way at all. I should not feel that way.
So here, go learn something new. There's a technology, great. Go take a TEDx, an edX or Coursera.
Okay.
Learn it.
Okay.
That you don't know it, that you're using age to avoid the risk. That's it.
Right. Right. Okay.
Learning something new that you haven't done before is risky at any age. So you either look at the risk head on and you go, got it. Is this going to stop me? Or am I going to take some action here? And then you take some action and you have some success. And, my wife just heard me talking and she walks over, and you couldn't see her. She walks over and points at herself. I don't know if you heard, James, I was giving them an example of you finding your new job.
Oh, no, I was thinking about when I took on the first SELP and I was scared to death.
Yeah, I feel the same way, yeah.
I couldn't even send out a Zoom invite by myself.
Yeah, so my wife took on a role, all right, where she had to manage Zoom meetings, all right, on a national level. And, anything dealing with technology, she goes, that's not me. And then she stepped into it, all right, and found people who could help her out with it. And now she's one of the masters in the United States of how to conduct large-scale Zoom meetings with 500 people, okay? When she started out, she was scared to death of doing a Zoom meeting with more than 3 people in the family.
I got it. I was feeling same way because of technology. And then I like I say, I have 2 voices. Then I think that it should not be that hard, because everybody doing, it should not be that hard.
So again, Varsha, here's the thing. It's really about looking at the risk head on. And then going, great.
And this webinar is really helping me a lot, increase my confidence, because I can do this. Before I thought I cannot do anything, like I'm talking, so that technology scares me, really.
I got it. You're not the only one on this call who's scared by technology. So let's move on. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. This webinar is helping me a lot. The technology, since in COVID, I'm attending a lot of technology, and is helping me slowly.
Yeah. So when we think about in a breakthrough mode, there are lots of futures, all right? And one is our predictable future, all right? And if you hear the conversation, embedded in the conversation are people's view of a predictable future. And in that predictable future, there are things I'm good at, there are things that I'm not good at, there are things that I'm experienced with, there are things I haven't done. But that's a predictable future, like a job that's a predictable future. I know what this job would be like. I know I can handle it. And then there are possible futures, and possible futures have unknowns, risks associated with them. And it's always a choice. It's always your choice. Am I going to go after a predictable future? Or am I going to go after a possible future? And you're the only one who can make that choice. And I want to keep coming back to, that's where you get to be the author of your life, or that's where the circumstances get to be the author of your life. Am I going to go for predictable, or am I going to go for possible? So if I'm going for possible, at the beginning, a possible future is far away, small, uncertain. How I make a possible future more practical is I delve into it, I start exploring it, I start sharing the future I want, and that future then gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like my film director friend, all right? From predictable future is he'll die with his dream intact. Possible future is I'm a film director. And he started going out and introducing himself to people, all right, that he's known. And he said, I want to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Joe. I'm a film director. And he started going out into his network of friends and family and everybody else and reintroducing himself so that he was reinforcing for himself who he was, and it hasn't happened yet. That is energizing a possible future. So that's really the breakthrough mindset. And then, you know, there are always going to be gaps and chasms. If you're out to produce a breakthrough, there are going to be practical things that have to be dealt with. Great. How do I go after dealing with practical things I've never dealt with? They may seem impossible. That they seem impossible doesn't mean they are impossible. You know, great example is the man on the moon, back in the old days of NASA. More recent examples are Elon Musk building the electric car, and Elon Musk with SpaceX launching a rocket that then lands itself back on a launch pad. There were a lot of unknowns, impossibles, challenges to encounter. And instead of backing, yeah, somebody said not to mention the Cybertruck. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, people have accomplished something bold. There are aspects of that that are seemingly impossible. I'm right now working on an initiative to transform manufacturing in the United States, to contribute $1 trillion to the economy, 50,000 world-class companies, and 5 million new jobs in manufacturing over the next 10 years. And there are a lot of people who are saying to me, that's not possible. And I have a response when they say that. I go, but is it impossible? And that stops them dead. And then people start thinking about it and they go, you know, it's not impossible. Yeah, I don't see how we're going to get there. But we could do that if we really put our mind to it. And I go, great. Well, what do we have to do this year to make progress on that kind of a trajectory? And that's what we're working on, is what we need to do this year that would then start to put us on a new trajectory for $1 trillion, all right, 50,000 world-class companies and 5 million new jobs in manufacturing in the next 10 years. You know, I'm having the opportunity to talk to heads of companies and heads of national organizations. And if you said, Doug, am I comfortable doing that? No, it scares me to death. But I don't have the conversation as Doug. I have the conversation standing in this future that will happen and hasn't happened yet. And that's how I talk to people, is this is the future. It will happen and it hasn't happened yet. And it's amazing the response that I get from people, because they go, wow, I never thought about it that way. So when we come back to thinking about missing pieces, challenges, impossibles, I'm not just kind of lecturing on it. I'm living in this world right now in a bold aspirational challenge that I've committed the next 10 years of my life to. And so there are a lot of ways to think about how, once you've identified challenges and missing pieces, you know, then you've got to go to work building them. Yeah. You know, so you look at NASA, or you look at Elon Musk, or you look at other great social accomplishments, all right? They identify the missing pieces, and then they go, how can I make it practical? And lots of times it's not how I can make it practical, it's who can work with me to make it practical. So many, many times we revert to an individualization of the world. It's up to me. We don't look at the world like, can I create a team, a community, pulling for me. But in order to do that, I've got to be out there telling people what I'm up to. That's where the whole networking of things comes in. I'm just going to, so, you know, which voice are you going to listen to? The little itty bitty voice, or the voice that says, what I have going for me is. And every time the little itty bitty voice comes in, and it does over and over and over again, okay, what there is to do is to replace that with the voice that says, what I have going for me. I'm a film director. And then speaking that out into the world so the world sees you that way. Not as somebody looking for a job, but as somebody who's being a certain way, who's has that job, who's contributing what you have to contribute. So the world sees you in the future, and the world supports you and pulls for you, and opportunities start to show up because that is the world that you're authoring. Now, like I said, these are provocative statements. This is that below the iceberg kind of thing. I'm just asking you to try them on. And if you walk out of today with one new bold thing to do, fabulous. I've really made a difference for you. So we've got this notion of life like a puzzle, like there's this puzzle of finding a job. And the way most people do it is they stand in the present and they look forward into the future and they go, I'm working to find a job. I want this. That's present forward into the future. The people that really accomplish the extraordinary stand in the future and work backwards. Stand in, I produced the film. Stand in, I have the job. Stand in, I've transformed US industry. Now, what is there to do now? From having fulfilled on that future, what's the action to take now? So I've actually picked up, you've used LinkedIn, and I've connected with people in congressional offices in the United States. And people are connecting with me. Not because I'm standing in a present called I want to make this happen, because I'm standing in a future and I'm speaking from that future in a very compelling way. Because for me, it's a done deal. It's happened. And people want to play with me because I'm standing in a future they want to see happening.
Excuse me, Doug, there's a question.
Yeah.
So this is from Anna. What do you suggest tools to look at your goals and get into action?
The most straightforward, again, is look at, one, your limiting conclusions about that goal, and two, in the spirit of bold made practical, identify what are the specific challenges or missing pieces, all right? And go to work practically on dealing with the challenges and missing pieces, and engage other people where it's appropriate. So if you're trying to learn a new technical skill, don't do it on your own. Find somebody who's got the technical skill to work with you. So those are two just very practical things, but for many people, doing those things will take you outside your comfort zone.
Thank you.
And so one of the things that I really want to kind of conclude with is when you're playing full out, when you're playing like this is the only life you have, when you're playing like I'm going to live life true to myself and fully, oftentimes, I love this Joseph Campbell quote. It's altered my life. We have to give up the life we planned to have the life that's waiting for us. So the most powerful moments in my life have been when I've given up the life I planned and seen that if I have a choice, I can go this way towards a life I planned, or I could go that way and I'm not quite sure how life will turn out. And that happened 32 years ago with my wife. You know, I was single, obviously. I never wanted to have children. I was fine just saying, I want to be married and have the freedom and all of that. And children, they're not part of my future. And I met Jamie, and Jamie said, well, got to tell you something. Kids, they're part of my future. Family, they're part of my future. You want me? Family is part of your future. And I went, oh my God. It took me, I wrapped my head around it. And, you know, I gave up the life I planned, and there was a life waiting for me that I just couldn't imagine, a life of having children, a life with family. I've done the same thing with my career many times, of giving up the life I planned and then discovering what was there waiting for me. And that's what happened with this initiative that I'm taking on right now. That's going to be my life's work for the next 10 years. That was not my plan 3 years ago. That was not my plan 2 years ago. That became my plan as I started to ask myself, what's going to light me up and turn me on for the next 10 years of my life? And I gave up the things that I planned because this was just there waiting for me. So I really want to thank you, all right, for your time, for your attention. We have a few minutes, you know, for any further questions or comments or things that people want to make, you know. And David, as always, I'm greatly appreciative of the opportunity to speak with your group, and thank you for inviting me. So, you know, with that, let's just see whatever questions people have or comments they have. Like, what struck you from today? If there's a takeaway point that you want to share to make it real for you and to contribute it to the other people, the other 44 people that are on the call, what's the takeaway point for you?
Hey, Doug, this is Amit Ray. I just got struck by your comment about being in the future to look back. That was very insightful for the list. I mean, we usually always try to think of now and how we get to the future. But you basically said, no, put yourself in the future and think backwards so that you force yourself to get there. You think of the, you know, you find out a plan to reach that goal, but you are thinking of yourself already staying, you know, being in the future. That was amazing.
Thank you. Great. Somebody else, what's another point that's sticking with you that you'd like to contribute to other people?
The tool of looking at your limiting conclusions and asking yourself, what are the challenges and missing pieces I need to fill in order to get rid of those limiting conclusions?
Terrific. Thank you, Amy. Somebody else who looks like, Varsha, did you want to say something?
Yes, Doug, thank you very much. I like your last sentence, give up your life you planned. That is the thing I'm doing, and thanks for your encouragement, and that's what really I'm looking forward. What we'll do for next 10 years.
Good for you.
Thank you.
This is
Hi,
Ravelli.
Doug. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead. No problem.
Vito, go.
Yes, so Doug, thank you. So actually, one of the things I've heard in some of the comments, I don't know if you mentioned it specifically, is you have to be really determined because you will encounter some obstacles, or you will encounter discouraging or negative thinking from time to time, and you have to expect that. And so, but you kind of inspired us to make sure you're really determined and focused on your goals, recognizing that there'll be obstacles or bumps along the way, but they should not prevent you from still reaching those goals.
Great. I want to just shift one thing, Vito, so stay with me, okay? Instead of saying determined, because determined kind of has a resoluteness to it, like an effort. There's an effort into determination, okay? Can you feel it? When you say I'm determined, there's like an effort that goes along with it?
Yes.
So I want to have it be I'm lit up.
Understood.
And that's a difference. See, I can be determined. Yeah. I can be determined about things I'm not lit up about.
Got it.
All right. But
yeah,
if I'm lit up about something, determination's just going to come along for the ride.
Yes, I agree with that completely.
So let's stay with being lit up rather than being determined. Great. Anybody else? Somebody else? Amy, it looks like you want to say something.
No, I was just trying to read this. Trying to read the slide.
Okay, and anybody else want to share something and contribute to other people?
Hi, this is Ravelli.
Yeah.
Yes. So based on your discussion about studying the future and work backwards, the main takeaway from that is that you need to have a strategy in order for you to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And plan things out, because failing to plan is planning to fail. So I think it is important to really envision yourself at that role, or either that company or industry, and then come up with a plan on how to get there. Mm-hmm. And eventually you will see the result of your efforts over time.
Yeah, planning is important, but I want to emphasize that I'm suggesting a different type of planning, because most of the planning that we do is planning within what we're already familiar with and what our comfort zone is. So how do we create a plan that actually is powerful, but isn't going to be limited by our experience or comfort zone? So that's where identifying the big challenges, the impossibles, the risks, and then planning how you're going to go after those will take you into still a plan, but it's a very different type of plan. And it's also a plan that allows for spontaneity. So if I really know what the risks and challenges are, then I could be talking to somebody and I could be saying, hey, do you know anybody who's done X? Okay, in a spontaneous way. And they say, yeah, I do actually. All right. Whereas I might, if I have my very directed plan, it may not occur to me to be spontaneous because it doesn't fit with my plan. So yes to a plan, but let's have the plan be a breakthrough type of plan, not a conventional linear plan.
Doug, I want to contribute here, and I totally agree with what you said. Is really mindset. It's important, and put yourself in the position that you want to be and think that way, instead of saying I want to get into that. Is I am. So that's really give me a lot of insights and inspiration too. As recent experience, I really want to transition into healthcare and life science of medical devices. So in some of the network meetings, when I was saying I want to transition into there, I didn't really get much response. But in a recent one, I just saying I have experience in the Fortune 100 companies and work in the highly regulated field. And I'm looking in this companies for this kind of work. And 3 recruiters reached out to me right after the networking meeting. So it's very interesting, and I think this is critical. You know, one thing is you have to have the capability and the experience, but second thing is you put yourself in the position that you are seeking to instead of I want to. So that's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Well, you're saying you shifted, Mandy. You started by saying I want to, and then
Yes.
then you shifted to saying I'm shifting into.
Yeah, or I'm looking the jobs in this area without mentioning that I did not have experience and I am transitioning into. So that way they are looking at the skills you have instead of experience and that you don't have. So focus on that, and I think it's critical too for job.
Good for you, Mandy. Terrific.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have to bring today to a close. So everyone can see that you've got my email address up there. All right. If you have a further question or you want to set up a very brief conversation to discuss something, I'm more than available to do that. So I welcome you to reach out. Okay, if you have a further question, you know, or if there's a particular idea that you want some more insight on. So David, again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, Doug, thank you very much, as always, for being such a big supporter of PSG of Mercer County and Job Seeker Support Group. So I'm so appreciative that you were able to join us again this week. And, you know, the thoughts that I had were, as we sum up, you know, the breakthrough roadmap, it doesn't have to be a big shift. It doesn't have to be a big change. The shift could be small and yield a big impact. So, you know, let's not think about that, gee, I really have to do something completely different, 180. It may not necessarily be that way. So, you know, and the one that I thought as being, you know, easy and not very big is maybe just consider moving away from a few things that are familiar and safe, maybe even just a little bit. So maybe even shift your job search to looking at maybe a different industry or a different role within the industry, or if your lifestyle allows for it, maybe you can move and go to a different geography. And also look to promote your soft skills for those sorts of change, because a lot of times the hard skills may not easily translate as you make a shift or a change, but your soft skills, the way you do work, not the tools, but the way you do work would be helpful. So that was my observation, and I thought this was just a wonderful program. So thanks again. Want to let folks know what's coming up. Now we will keep the session open. We're going to wrap up in about 2-3 minutes, but we'll keep it open just for open networking, or I like to call the after party. We'll just hang around. Doug is welcome to hang around as well. We talk about whatever it is we want to talk about for the next, I don't know, half hour or so. But coming up right after that is next Friday, we will be right back here virtually and online. It'll be March 26th. Linda Trugano, Coach Linda Trugano will be here. Career predictions for 2021 and how they affect your job search. So she has a perspective as a coach to talk about career predictions for 2021. The following week is April 2nd, and Glenn Posh will be here. Glenn is a wonderful person. He's been on the circuit for quite a while, helping lots of people. He'll talk about how to stay motivated, especially when you don't feel like it. And I think that's just very relevant, because for some of us, the pandemic is old and job search is old, and we may be losing our motivation. So Glenn will be talking about how to stay motivated even when you don't feel like it. Also, other groups that are coming up tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning will be the Career Support Group. You can find them at careersupportgroup.org, careersupportgroup.org. It will be tomorrow morning at 8:30 in the morning. Ed Hahn will be presenting how recruiters use LinkedIn. So Ed Hahn is one of the local gurus on LinkedIn, and he's also an internal recruiter for a local company. He'll be talking about how recruiters use LinkedIn tomorrow morning by 8:30, careersupportgroup.org. I'm sorry, the New Jersey Job Seekers meets every Tuesday evenings at 7:30 in the evening. So I did put their connection info in our PSG of Mercer County LinkedIn group. PSG of Central New Jersey, one of our cousin organizations, meets Mondays at 10:30, so you can check them out at psgcnj.biz. And I know John has a quick announcement about PSG of Morris County. They meet Wednesdays at 9:30, psgmc.org, psgmc.org. So John, if you're still on the line, please let us know about that program.
All right, this Wednesday, we're going to have a recruiter panel moderated by Marty Latman, and in the panel will be Lynn Kelly from RGP. Ed Hahn will be back talking to things that you'd like to talk about, as well as some pre-published questions. Marianne Kennedy, who has her own consulting firm and is out there in the life science space. And last but not least is Allison Whitesell, and she is with Siemens Mobility. It's really a view of several folks from the other side of the table. And if I can just throw in one more thing, David, on Sunday at 1 o'clock, Ed McCabe will be presenting for the third time using LinkedIn's material with their permission. They'll be talking about defining your target market. That's at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Thanks, Dave.
Terrific, and thank you, John. So once again, a big thank you to Doug. I'm so glad Doug was able to join us today. And as a reminder, next week, March 26th, Linda Trugano, Coach Linda Trugano, will be here to talk about career predictions for 2021 and how they affect your job search. So until we get to see you again virtually, or maybe after we'll see each other in person after we all get inoculated, I do hope you all have a terrific week. I will simply say goodbye, everybody.